So I'm recording through TG right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, there you go. Okay, awesome. Okay, cool. Let's try this. I have everything wired together here. Let's see if it works.
Carl, you're muted.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Right, great, cool. So I've got like OBS going. I want to do some screen sharing. As I mentioned last week, over the next, kind of going forward over the next many weeks, probably the next few months, we're going to have some screenshots. We share things like that as things kind of start coming together. Last week was a big week because internally, from a dev process standpoint, the team was able to get the first static build of the mobile app done, right? So it's not, when I say done, it's not complete by any means. There's still a very, very much a long way to go, but it's the first time that we've had a build front to back and an installable APK, right? So we're building it for iOS and Android. I have a higher affinity for Android just because of my Java background. I like Kotlin. I like the tooling that they have. iPhones are fine. They're perfectly great. They're wonderful pieces of hardware. But from a dev standpoint, we're iterating. We're building both in parallel. But the build that I got dropped was the APK. And I actually wanted to see if I can get this working. If you guys hopefully can see my screen. So we actually have a native build of the app right now. So it's all test data, it's all static data. But basically, you guys have been kind of on a journey with us here. So the Figmas that have been shared, the screen wireframes, the designs, it's everything, they're being implemented. So there's many screens in here. And we're basically kind of approaching the point where we're kind of on par with TikTok, right? So there's still back-end development, lots of it to do, lots of API integration to do, lots of third-party service integration to do. The crypto wallet still has to be implemented. But from, again, you know, one of the approaches was we wanted a familiar social media experience, and that's what we have, right? And we're looking at it right now, and we're going to clean up the rough edges, et cetera. But there's an actual build, which is it's a big deal. So looks like screen sharing stopped. So I apologize, guys. I'm not going to muck with it too much, but yeah. So that was a big deal last week. So as the mobile dev teams kind of iterate over it, it'll get better and better and more polished, et cetera. They'll integrate it with the back-end services. They're integrating it with some third-party services around SMS, account verification, things like that. All of the normal behaviors that you would expect from a Web 2 social media platform, we're bringing to Web 3, right? So over the next probably week or 10 days, we're going to start designing out and scoping out the crypto wallet integration. Again, it's going to be a Solana-based wallet. It'll be natively embedded in the application. So things are going really well there. Other things, marketplace development is going very well. We validated, we forked the NFT team led by Koichev is doing a great job. They forked Metaplex. They validated the login against the Unimoon Marketplace. You can see it out in our GitHub repo. They validated integration with the Phantom wallet, which is great. So it works with Phantom's wallet right now. Also, we're going to look at reconfiguring the Web3 wallet provider to point to obviously RL1. But again, we're just reusing the great stuff that the community's kind of built upon, right? The authentication is there. The basically profiles in progress, searches in progress. The homepage is done. History's in progress. Trading, being able to trade NFTs, that functionality is there and completed. And then they're going to start on instant buy capabilities and the auction capabilities around the NFT kind of scaffolding, right? On the L1 front, we're debugging the Block Explorer right now. Alex is our developer that's working on that, leading that charge. He's also the one that made DevNet changes for the Unimoon token. So again, you can see all of these changes out in our GitHub repo. The Solana SOL token has been replaced with Unimoon in our fork. And again, we're keeping the changes pretty moderate. Like we're not, I'll repeat this occasionally, but we're not making invasive changes really to Solana. So we're changing some of the tokenomics, the inflation, some of the rent, et cetera, some of those calculations. Quantity, obviously the volume of tokens is going to change. But that's really it. We're not looking to change, the mechanics, the consensus mechanisms, any of that. We're just kind of reusing it, right? We're also completing PoCs around smart contract development. Now, those are just the proof of concepts that we've been doing some experimentation with. As those complete, we'll kick off the actual. We have about 4 or 5 contracts identified right now that need to be written to do calculations around token transfers and things like that. So if you guys remember, based on the activity in the Unimoon network, every epoch, and we have not defined an epoch. It could be 24 hours, it could be 7 days, but it's going to be some reasonably short amount of time. You're essentially going to get a form of airdrop or reflection based on your social activity coefficient, right? That SAC calculation is going to directly be proportioned to the amount of tokens that you get for providing that interaction, that utility with the network, right? So that's going really well. On the data science front, our data scientist is looking at TrueMania, which is a package for data simulation. He's currently working on the models to model and simulate social networking interactions, right? Essentially posts, likes, etc., what those graphs look like. So that work's begun as well. He's got his pipeline set up. Again, he selected Kubeflow for now. But he's working on the data modeling and basically being able to, and I'm working with him a little bit on it, what we can do to train the model that he creates, right? So a big part of that is basically simulating data, right? Creating test data that represents real world user activity. So that's in flight. That's going very well. Some challenges we've identified there around scalability, right? If you have, we're not going to have 1 billion users out of the gate, but you have to think about not just the infrastructure to support that, because we're not going to have infrastructure to support 1 billion users out of the gate. But what we want to do is have architectural and design decisions done to make it easier to scale out to that large quantity of users. So some of the challenges are basically doing model sharding and processing, et cetera. So what can you do on in the uMoon app essentially as an individual? And this goes back to some validator discussions we had probably a month and a half ago. In a true peer-to-peer network, everybody is equal, right? Everybody's truly equal, right? Everybody's doing the same type of tasks. Every device is, has the same capabilities, et cetera. So, looking over that stuff, we're running into a challenge in the data science space. When you're looking at a machine learning model, how do you get that essentially federated in different pieces of it, spread out, processed, and brought back together? In the Web 2 world, it's very easy to do. You put it in a cloud somewhere, right? And you do it centrally, right? But we really don't want to do that. We want to be a little more clever with what we do, but you can't do all of that in the client either, because that's very inefficient inside the mobile app. So we have to basically figure out how to bifurcate what do we centralize and what do we decentralize, right? And one of the big ethos of this project is self-sovereignty. So we're going through the analysis over the next week or so, what makes sense to do on the client, what makes sense to centralize, both from a performance and a sovereignty standpoint. So that's going great. some of the training and experimental models will go around being able to understand, how to predict if something's going to go viral, right? Other than doing the analysis, we had this, he and I were talking yesterday, other than doing the analysis, kind of the historical analysis, understanding when something has already gone viral. It's very easy to do analytics and understand kind of what the activity or, looking in your rearview mirror when something goes viral. How do you predict that, right? And we actually, I brought up an old movie that I liked called Minority Report. And there's this idea for people that are familiar in it. You have kind of this kind of precognition or pre-crime division, essentially. So before a crime is going to happen with a reasonable amount of, probability. So there's this idea that we're kind of toying with and playing with. How do you know a piece of content is going to get large amounts of interaction ahead of time, right? What kind of key indicators are there, et cetera? So we're kind of exploring that, and that really goes into the SAC calculation. The SAC calculation is meant to be after the fact, after something's gone viral, et cetera, right? And what we're looking at and exploring just briefly what we can do to know that ahead of time, because that really goes into the tokenomic model too, is understanding, what supply and demand is, right? This is kind of where things are starting to get glued together, understanding if something goes viral, it's going to get rewarded. However, is there enough supply to reward things? Right, for example. So, we're starting to bring all of these dots together. So, the next probably 8 weeks, we're really going to dive into L1 development, smart contracts, the algorithms, et cetera. And that's where we're at right now. So, all of the kind of busy work around infrastructure, all of that's going well. Core development is going well. If you guys have any questions, as usual, drop them in the TG group, and the mods will get them bubbled up to us. And that's pretty much it for this week. It was a really busy week last week. I expect this week to be even busier. So hope everybody had a great weekend, and we will talk to you soon.